to give us his question, please.
What do you think the future of space travel is?
Okay. Okay. Anybody want to take that? Yeah, you want that one?
Well, you know, the future of space travel, a lot of people have their heads in the current dilemmas that we have, which is what's the next spaceship we're going to have? The shuttle period is over. It's been very iconic of human spaceflight. We don't have a ship immediately ready to replace it, although we're working on it. We're continuing to fly with the Russians to the space station. So the immediate question, or the immediate answer to that, is that we will develop a new spaceship which will take U.S. And hopefully other international partners to the station and back. We'll develop another new spaceship that will go further than the space station and hopefully to the moon, to asteroids. And the long-term answer to that, the future of human spaceflight, is that we will be on the moon. We will be on Mars. We'll be throughout the solar system. You can't really imagine a future without that. So we will have larger ships, more capable ships. There will be more people, people from all walks of life, rather, flying into low Earth orbit and hopefully beyond. And if you look at the world right now, who has heavy lift booster capability? Not just the US and Russia, Europe, China, Japan, India, and all of these people are increasing their space programs. That's the trend, that's the way of it. So more people, more countries, more rockets, further out into the solar system. It's an absolute inevitability. So what ships, we can tell you for the immediate future, but the long future, it's going to be up to you guys to decide.
Thank you. Our second question, I'm not sure if we got the name right, it's from Bollockmean School, but Simon Taylor. No? Right, I'll give the question then. What qualifications do you need to be an astronaut?
Well, basically the qualifications that you need is some kind of, most of us, all of us up here have technical degrees, so you go to school, study hard in the schools that you're at now, study hard in the follow-on schools, undergraduate, and most of us have graduate degrees. I think all of us up here have graduate degrees, if not MDs, PhDs, those kind of things. So it takes a lot of studying initially just to get in preparation, and then all of us have gone on to do other careers. Like for myself, I was a fighter pilot in the Air Force and then became a test pilot, and all those jobs that I did, I had a great time doing. So the next thing for a qualification to be an astronaut is find something that you're passionate about in one of these technical areas and do well at that. And there's a little bit of, if not a lot of luck of being an astronaut, because not a lot of job positions, so we all feel fortunate to be up here. But you want to find a job that you're really excited about, because then when you apply to be an astronaut, you're already satisfied in the job you're at, and if you get the opportunity to be an astronaut, that's even a bonus. So it's really be interested in a technical field. Is anyone interested in being an astronaut now that they've seen the video? We saw the previous. Anyone here thinking about being an astronaut? Guess not.
Right, thank you very much. The next question comes from Honor Jude, St. Ninian's High School.
Can an astronaut get life insurance?
I think it's the first time I've ever heard that question. I'll answer it. Yes, you can get life insurance. Obviously, you have to go through kind of special providers, and the government a lot of times also provides insurance as well. So you can get insurance, but obviously you have to have someone that's kind of thought about it. So there's kind of special insurers that have looked at the question and gotten it for us.
Right, thank
question.
You. Question number 4 comes from Queen Elizabeth II High School, Arid Khan.
How does being in space affect your body?
Well, I kind of, where are you exactly? Wave around a little bit. Okay, gotcha. I think I kind of mentioned that in the intro, that every system changes, but I'll run down the systems that do change just very, very quickly, and then there's a lot of places to get more information. First of all, away from gravity, your bones and your muscles are unloaded, so they start to soften and weaken. You lose muscle mass strength, you lose bone density. Your blood volume decreases by about 15% or so. Your heart changes shape and size. It gets a little bit smaller. Your lungs change shape, and they also change how they balance the air that goes in and the blood that goes to them. Your brain changes in such a way that your perception adapts to become three-dimensional rather than two-dimensional, which is just an amazing thing. And then there's a lot of other changes that are less easy to see but very important to us. Changes with the immune system, changes with the fluid regulation system, changes with the autonomic nervous system, and all of those happen over a period of 6 weeks to form a new steady state, a new point of adaptation per se. And it's a very interesting thing that you can actually Google that, look on the web, look at the NASA Space Life Sciences Data Archive, and get a lot of that summarized. But obviously there's volumes written about that. I wrote one of them.
Thank you. We can now go on to Ramsey Grammar School, and a question put by Mitko Dragonov.
How can you justify the cost of research in space, having considered the poverty and crisis on our own planet?
I mean, I can start. Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's something we're passionate about. The economic return of spaceflight in the U.S. is for every dollar we put into it, we get $9 out. All right, that's just the economic impact. And that's not really looking at the basic fundamental research that we can find things in zero gravity that you cannot find in 1G. And some of those are fundamental discoveries that are very amazing to us. We don't know how we're going to apply them, and we put them in the pocket, and we know that we're going to use them downstream. Some of them we've already made use of, how flames work and more efficient combustion. We can burn fuels on the ground more efficiently. Some of them, how we preserve bone up there, and muscle we can already start applying on the ground. But the economic benefit is incredible. Again, 9-to-1. It was higher than that during the Apollo era, and it's only going to get higher as we discover new commercial interests in space. The basic science knowledge, which we can only get up there because gravity is such a dominant effect on so many biological processes and physical processes, and then basically going further. You can't afford not to do research in space. If you took, NASA's budget and gave it to some charity organization or some social problem, you won't solve that social problem. If it were as easy as throwing money at it, it would have been solved. You will make a tiny dent in it, and over the years, you will have gone nowhere. You cannot afford not to go to space. You cannot afford not to spend money to take the steps that we're doing. That's my start.
Yeah, and there's obviously more. And you know, we always talk about you're spending money in space. Well, it actually gets spent here on Earth because that money goes to pay us to start with, and to pay those scientists and the engineers that develop these systems. And I'm mostly an engineer, and I've always been fascinated by the problems you solve when you ask questions that you haven't even thought of yet. And so putting the space station together, 19 countries coming together, every piece fit. A lot of them, for the first time when they got to orbit, they'd all fit. You know, that's a very, very difficult engineering problem that we managed to solve across all those languages, across all those, you know, educational standards. That's an amazing thing. All for the price in the United States of less than 1/3 of 1% of the total budget for the U.S. government. In addition, there's an impact well beyond that. Eric and I, after our first flight, were in Kyrgyzstan. We went to a school which had no power, no running water, and we ended up with a classroom of kids. And they knew what NASA was. They knew what astronauts were. They knew, basically, what space exploration was all about. And that's such a dramatic impact that this bit of research, this bit of exploration, that exploration has that effect across the world. You know, we're not just looking at the United States. There's 19 countries involved in the space station, and really, you know, they said it best on Apollo 11, it was for all mankind. It's not just for us or just for one group. Next.
I got it. And I think, yeah, we'll wrap this up, but because we could talk the whole time about this. But part of your question was relating to the crisis that we have, or the crises that we have here on the planet. And I think that is probably one of the strongest justifications for us continuing what we're doing. If you look at, even if you take the money part out of it, totally take the money part of it out of it, everything that we do in space, whether it's the science activities that are going on, whether it's how we manage our own bodies up there, whether it's how the systems run, how you get electricity, how we recycle water, how we generate our own oxygen, is all about two things. It's about learning how we live off of our planet and how we can explore further and just continue to learn more and more that takes us further away from the planet for refuge at some point, I'm sure. And it most definitely, every single thing is helping us live better here on Earth. There is not one thing I can think of that goes on Space Station, if you want to use Space Station as your example, that does not have that dual thing going on with it. How do we get further? How do we explore? How do we learn more? How do we answer those curious questions that we have? And how do we take all of that and make life better here on Earth?
Thank you. Very controversial question in a way. But could I go to Bolockameen and ask Andrew Vernon Brown for his question, please?
What inspired each of you to become astronauts?
I can take a crack at that. For me, I think it was kind of an evolution towards figuring out that was something I wanted to do. As a child, I'm old enough that I sat in front of the TV. I have a vivid memory of watching the first moon landing and thinking, wow, that is really cool. I cannot believe we as human beings are doing that. But it never crossed my mind that it was a possibility for me. But I think it did, put some little bit of inspiration into me. And I very fortunately had a father who loved to fly and shared that passion with our family. And we spent a lot of time growing up just hanging out at the local airport. And I got that into my blood, that passion for flying. And I knew that would, that helped direct me what I chose to do in school, studying aeronautical engineering. And then, what better place to fly than to space? So I knew I wanted to work for NASA. And I spent a number of years working in shuttle processing at Kennedy Space Center. And honestly, it wasn't until I was there and seeing it more close up that I started thinking, wow, maybe I could think about this astronaut thing. And very fortunately, I had a couple people that I considered to be mentors that encouraged me to apply. And I can honestly say, if they hadn't done that, I don't think I ever would have picked up the pen to fill out the application. So I'm very thankful to them. And I think we all stand here in front of you today with backgrounds that are different, but we all loved what we were doing. We could have, without becoming astronauts, could have spent the rest of our lives working in the fields we were working and been very happy. And so 2 things I'll say to you, and I think Eric said it before, is pay attention to the things you enjoy. It means a lot to be working in a field that you love, because then it doesn't even feel like work. And we joke around that we don't want anybody telling NASA, but we pay them to be able to do the things we're doing. And the second thing is fill out the application. Have faith in yourself that if there's something you want to do, just take that step that at least gets you closer to it. And there are so many times where we can be our own worst obstacle, and we need to get past that and just trust in the things that you love and go for it.
Thank you. If I could ask Josh Reardon from St Ninians High School to give his question, please.
Do you think aliens exist?
Well, that's a very good question. That's right. It was also kind of asked with Brian when he was up here as well, and it was interesting to hear his answer. I think that aliens do exist. I think there is life, just as we're starting to look farther and farther. We've just found planets. 10 years ago, people that weren't even sure that there were other solar systems, that there were planets, other places in the universe. And so we had to go out and find them. And so a lot of those people that were saying planets don't exist anywhere else, well, guess what? They do. And you start doing the math, we're seeing 700, and the number keeps growing and growing. And then you look at the billions and billions and the stars, and you keep adding all those up. There's no question in my mind that we're going to find many, many planets that are similar to Earth, that have the same kind of atmosphere, the same background. It's just a matter of time that we will find places like that. And even in our own solar system, as Brian was alluding to, it won't surprise me if we find microbes, small life. Most of the time when the question that's kind of being asked at the same time, are there aliens? Are there little green men coming down to the planet and visiting us? I personally don't believe that that has happened. And the reason I don't believe it is, this is kind of anecdotally, but just about everyone in this room is probably carrying a camera on them right now. And you kind of notice as we move along that you don't see as many of those alien photos of spaceships coming in and landing on the planet and all those things. And why is that? I think it's because you can see just about anything on the internet now, but you don't see a lot of those pictures of little green men coming